Okay, episode 9, all things boxing. Been away for a little bit, but we're back now, hoping to get some more consistency with our episodes. So let's quickly give a quick rundown of the Boxers show. Main event, we had Richard Riakporhe versus Dion Juma. Give me your thoughts on the fight, bro.
You know what? I thought it was a good fight, you know. Mm-hmm. I think Dion gave Richard a lot to think about in there, being a southpaw, but boxing quite well at the same time. I think we haven't seen enough of Richard where he's particularly had to think in the ring.
Yeah.
It's just been a matter of time before he lands his right hand.
Yeah. How did you think he coped with the different looks that Dion was giving him?
He was losing the fight.
You thought he was losing?
Yeah, even after the knockdown.
Yeah.
It would have been, I would imagine it would have been quite close on the scorecards, whether or not Dion would have been winning or not. But at the point where, just before the second knockdown, I was thinking if this goes 12 rounds, and
he's going to lose, isn't it?
He's going to lose the fight. But he showed what he has shown up until now, that right hand has got crazy power.
Yeah.
Probably only matched at the moment by Lawrence Okoli. But I do feel like if he goes in there with a tricky opponent who can maybe withstand the power or just avoid it in the first place, because it was literally Dion Juma made 2 mistakes and got punished for both of them.
Yeah.
And Richard seemed like he was waiting for a mistake rather than trying to work his way in
And create
so
openings.
If he boxes someone who's tidier, maybe a level above Dion, even someone like Isaac, I don't think would be as defensively irresponsible as Dion was, because there were a few opportunities.
That first knockdown, just to cut you, that's exactly what it was. It was just he pulled out in a straight line against someone who is obviously got a longer reach in Richard, and he got caught on the exit. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, if you fight someone who's a bit tidier defensively, we got to remember as well, like, Dion has been out the ring for a while. He had a 6-rounder. Was it last month or the month before? Yeah,
the month before the fight. Yeah.
So he himself probably wasn't the best version of what he could have been in there.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think Dion did well, and like I said, he got caught by the right hand twice, and that was enough to end the fight.
Yeah, I kind of agree, to be honest. I was, although I did have Dion up on the cards, I was looking at it and I just felt like Dion was out hustling Richard, but he weren't really giving Richard that much to think about. You know, like, I don't think defensively.
When I say think about, I think...
Oh, no. From a tricky standpoint, from a boxing, he was giving him something to think about.
Richard didn't really look like... He was literally just waiting.
Yeah, that's
what
what I mean.
Like he didn't know how to
No, he was having to think on a boxing IQ level, but I mean, like, more... I don't think Richard was ever worried about the power coming from Dion, or I don't think there was nothing that Dion was doing other than frustrating him. And I think for 12 rounds, you've got to rather have insane cardio, where you can literally count the punch all night and move all night for 12 rounds, because that was a 12-round fight. And just like Richard was biding his time. I think, like what you said, someone who's a little bit more defensively responsible, and not that Dion has got bad defense necessarily, but just made them errors. And I just don't think he had enough power, or at least he wasn't trying to hurt Richard. He was content to, like, faff him around. And he was outboxing him in stages, but I feel like if that was someone who could gain Richard's respect a little bit more, Richard wouldn't be able to just sit there and wait and land that right hand. So I know they're looking at a potential world title for Richard over at Boxer. Credit to Richard. I think that's his 4th or 5th undefeated fighter, you know, and in the cruiserweight division, he's come up quite hard. I mean, he's had Sam Hyde, Tommy McCarthy, Chris Billam-Smith, Jack Massey, and Dion Juma. He's not really had that many easy touches, other than maybe his debut and his first 4 or 5 opponents. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Dion. Do you see him? I mean, he was pursuing the British. Obviously, that fight wasn't for the British. Do you see him coming back and trying to pursue that, or do you see him having a warm-up fight? Or
like I said, I I find it hard to believe that was the best version of Dion Joma in there. So I'd be I mean, he has to come back in it, and he definitely will box at British level, maybe European. The world scene, I don't know.
You would think he would have wanted to win that fight in order to do that, you know.
I mean, I don't know. Like we see how the next sort of year or two goes for him. It's been a rough few years for everyone, really. So if you haven't been active, it's kind of hard to tell where you're at.
Yeah, and he's been very inactive.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to run through the whole card. We'll run through some of the main ones. So working downwards, we had Dan Azeez. Dan Azeez was meant to fight a southpaw. I think he was a 6'3" southpaw, Matthew Tinker, who actually beat him in the amateurs. I think the day of the weigh-in, the guy pulled out with he failed his brain scan. So they brought in this orthodox fighter, again 6'3". Forget his name, Reese something. They didn't know much about him. What did you think of his performance? I think it was he won by TKO, didn't he?
Yeah, it was TKO.
I don't know what round it was in. Let me search that quickly. But yeah, what was your thoughts on his performance?
I think compared to the Dan Azeez we're used to, it was a bit
round 8 TKO.
It was a bit stale, a bit flat. He seemed very one-dimensional in there. He was trying to do the same thing over and over again, and in the end, it worked. But like they said in the commentary at the time, and he even said it himself, it's like the other boys, your Yards, your Craig Richards, Buatsi, they might be looking at thinking, you know what, now might be a good time to fight him, because he wasn't the impressive Dan Azeez that we know he can be. But that could have been for a number of reasons. Again, the change in opponent could have had an effect on it. That changes your game plan. It changes what you've been working for. And boxing's boxing, innit? But these things can have an effect on people, you know.
I mean, it's not really my place or our place to talk about it unless Dan wanted to come out and talk about it. But I know that there might have been some minor complications in the camp. But yeah, I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise if them guys, like he mentioned in the interview, saw that performance, they might fancy themselves.
But credit to the opponent, though. The opponent stuck in well.
Yeah, he did really well. He was landing some good shots.
Yeah, he did his best to give Dan Azeez
some trouble.
Incredible fight, you know.
No, he did.
He's campaigned at super middleweight in the past, so
so he's not a natural light heavy, is he?
So he did really well to get to where he did.
Yeah,
but in the end, Dan was just a bit too much.
We'll move on to Dan Azeez because we will be talking about light heavyweights today. Chris Kongo, I'm going to let you kind of discuss this one because I know you know him a little bit more than I do, and you've had your own kind of encounters and experience with him. So just talk to me about his experience on the Boxer show.
I don't really know. Only he or someone on the inside will be able to tell us exactly what happened. But it's like the guy signed with Boxer. From what we've seen anyway, he signed with Boxer, and initially I saw on his Instagram he said he's going to be on early, and then he wasn't on the Freeview card, and then when it got to the Sky Sports card
at 7:30,
I remember me and you was chatting, and it got to like Dan Aziz's fight, and we was like, so when's he going to be on? And it turns out he was on after the main event, and it wasn't televised, and it's just like, for me, man, like I don't know what this guy's got to do to kind of get a break. Like he was a very good amateur, over 90 fights as an amateur, was on the cusp of going to the Olympics. Like he's been through the system. He's everything what you would think these promoters would want in a fighter, and he's a very good fighter as well. He had a tricky fight against McKinson in his fight 1 or 2
prior
before
to
this. Which he lost, but it was a close decision that could have gone either way. But yeah, man, like I don't know what he's kind of got to do to get himself out there. It seems like he's done everything. He signed with Dylan White. He's had shows on DAZN.
He's been with Sky and Matchroom.
What is it about?
What are they waiting for?
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? And it's a shame, really, because like I said, he's a very good fighter. I think he's more than capable of challenging the likes of Conor Benn.
Yeah, any domestic.
Yeah, Josh Kelly, all these guys. Like he's more than capable of being in there with them.
And he's kind of proved that by beating that Luther Clay. Remember he beat Luther Clay in the Garden. and that was like his breakout fight, and then he lost to McKinson, which is, you know, McKinson is just about a fight.
Just to put it in perspective, McKinson was meant to fight Virgil Ortiz.
On the weekend.
Which got called off, but it's kind of like what.
But not many other guys are doing the 50-50 fights, not the Marcus.
And I know for a fact Chris Kongo is willing to fight anybody. You'll go in there against anyone on short notice as well. So it's kind of like...
It's interesting. Look, I'm looking at it here. The guy's had 13 wins, 7 by knockout. You know, it's like he's number 6 in the country. He's got a very healthy record. I know he's not British champion or anything like Dan, but like it would have been nice to see him get a similar... welcome if you know, Dan got
other fights that were on there. No disrespect to anyone, but it's like there were prospects on there, and they may have sold a lot of tickets or whatnot, but it's like, why are these prospects getting televised? And I get you're trying to build people's names and stuff, but come on, man, this is
they're in 4 rounds. He was in an 8 round.
Chris Kongo's well into his pro career, and he's a very good fighter. And it's what
and he's in a very
want to watch.
He's in a very interesting weight class as well.
If you're giving me a choice between a 4-rounder of someone of a prospect that I've never heard of, and I get the promotional sense of it, but choice between a prospect and Chris Kongo, as a boxing fan, I'm gonna want to watch Chris Kongo every time. He's not like he's a boring fighter. The guy gets knockouts. He's aggressive. He's a very good boxer. So I just found it a bit strange.
Interesting.
It'd be interesting to know what went on there.
Yeah, interesting. Hopefully, it was just the TV slot. Really, is the lack of getting a TV slot. It doesn't necessarily
even coming on after the main event. Like if you take the venue itself, everyone's going to have left by then. You know. It's not great. It's not ideal, man. It's not ideal.
Anything else on that show? I mean, you had the Azeez brothers.
Yeah, there's.
You want to mention
the Azeez
them?
Brothers look very good. Azeez in particular. But we've heard stories about
them anyway.
What he was doing in the amateurs.
Yeah.
So that's not really a surprise to me.
Caroline
Dubois looked dangerous. Bro.
Serious. Yeah.
Body shots she was sinking into that other lady that was in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's something about Caroline Dubois that she's very refreshing. I don't know if it's because we compare her to her brother, but she seems very like media friendly.
Yeah.
She seems to be
happy to be there and
she seems to be enjoying the moment and really like
embracing it.
Embracing it. So that was good to see as well, man.
Okay, I don't think there was anything else on that card. The Azeez brothers, Dan Azeez, Richard, Caroline. That was it.
Yeah, man. There was the other prospect as well. But
who was that?
Lee. His second name was Lee. He was like a lightweight.
Okay.
But yeah, he looked alright as well.
So that's just a little recap. Episode 9 is mainly going to be about Joshua Buatsi versus Craig Richards, which is a light heavyweight bout in the O2 on the 21st of May. So let's just give a quick breakdown of both guys. Okay, so you've got Buatsi, ABA champion, I think multiple times, Olympic bronze medalist in Rio. He was a standout. He had some of the standout knockouts and performances in the Olympics. I think even Floyd Mayweather tried to approach him to sign him, which he declined. I feel like for me, since then, his career hasn't really gone the way
you would expect it to.
You would expect it to. I mean, I always compare him to Lawrence Okoli. I know they're in different weight classes, but they went to the same Olympics and turned pro at the same time with the same promotional company and the same management company in 258 with Anthony Joshua. And I mean, Buatsi's record, he's 15-0 with 13 knockouts. So it's a very healthy record. But in terms of just who he's fought, and just the pace that they've brought him at and the way he's been promoted, although he's got a massive machine behind him, like I said, just compared to like Lawrence Okoli, Joe Cordina, some of these guys, I just don't feel for whatever reason he's just been pushed correctly.
You know what I think he's suffering from? I think I agree with you. Like his career hasn't, and I think I've mentioned it in previous episodes. Like his career hasn't hit the kind of trajectory that we thought it would. But again, he's 15-0 with 13 knockouts. So why are we saying that? I think the issue is that there's other light heavyweights in this country that are similar age, similar kind of stage of the career, don't have the amateur background that he has. but they seem to be doing a lot more than him.
Yeah.
I know he's had injuries here and there. But yeah, man, it's strange. It's a strange one because he's kind of everything you would kind of want in an Olympic, especially for a British Olympic prospect. Like, he's aggressive. He can get a knockout.
Yeah. He's not afraid to take a shot. He's entertaining.
Well.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
And
it is strange.
It's kind of strange it's strange why we're even saying it, because if you look at his record, his record doesn't necessarily say that. But then again, who has he fought?
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now, and it's like, it's not that he hasn't. I mean, he hasn't had the domestic fights. So like, even other light heavyweights such as, Dan Azeez has had Andre Sterling, Jose Burton. Even Andre Sterling has had Dan Azeez, Craig Richards. We'll get into Craig, but he's had...
Yard has fought
Arthur twice.
Yeah.
Craig has fought Andre Sterling, Shakur
Pitters,
sorry. Jake Ball. But with Buatsi, it's just, I don't know, he's just gone under the radar. I don't know if I feel like this will be his breakout. Yeah, this will be his breakout fight, which is a bit weird for someone who has had 15 fights of 13 knockouts, number 2 in the country. He has won the British title and he has fought some hard opponents. He beat Liam Conroy. He stopped Liam Conroy in 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But then after that, I just thought like whether he defends the British or moves on or to European or whatever, he would have. But I feel like he just went back into fighting.
I guess it's just accolades that he hasn't picked up.
Yeah.
Or levels that he hasn't fought at yet.
Did you watch the Bolotnik's fight? That was his last fight.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't know what it is, but I remember thinking at the time, it's not the Buatsi that I kind of want to see. He does he gets hit a little bit, and he's an aggressive fighter, so you kind of expect that. But yeah, I don't know, man.
The Bolotnik's fight, I think it was an entertaining fight, but I was worried just defensively, considering, and I think we said this about Amir Khan, and this is another topic, but he's obviously relocated from England to train in America with a very good defensive coach in Virgil Hunter. Obviously, he trained Andre Ward. But like, just to see him in a scrap like that, where it was literally like... it was like a war of attrition kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? Is like, who can outlast who? And he's got that, and that's what makes him very entertaining. But I just feel with a little bit more defense and a bit more cuteness, that could have been a lot easier than it was. But yeah, that it didn't expose him by no means, but it did show that, okay, he can be taken into deep waters, but he can also swim in deep waters as well. Yeah. And we saw the one against Kalik where his eye got... That was a couple fights prior. What did you think of that fight?
Again, like, he has a way of getting into the deep waters and staying there, like you said. Yeah. But sometimes it's not really what you want to see against that kind of level of opponent, which is my issue. You're always going to have fights where it's a bit of a tear up. Like, it's going to happen. But coming from his background and what we're kind of expecting of him, you don't expect to see it so soon, to the extent where, I mean, obviously you can pick up wear and tear and little cuts here and there, but you don't expect to see that happening at this stage. At that stage, really maybe if he was in a world title fight with Anthony Yard. Yeah. You would. But this is the thing: are we saying that because we know more about Yard? Because the Kalik was undefeated, but Bolotnik's had. Yeah, but undefeated. Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Okay, so that's Josh. Moving on to Craig Richards, just in comparison, had a lot less amateur fights. I don't know how many. I believe he won the novices or something like that, but didn't go to the GB squad. Definitely didn't go to the Olympics. I think he lost to Buatsi in the amateurs twice, I believe. I know he lost it one in 2014. Definitely lost to Josh. He actually started his career at super middleweight. He won the 7 area in his 8th fight at super middleweight. And since he's gone pro, I mean... Again, he's been with Matchroom, but he hasn't been, as much as him, Buatsi hasn't been pushed by Matchroom. I feel like Craig hasn't been embraced as much. Do you know what I'm trying to say? As much as Buatsi was. Let me get up Craig's box right here. So Craig has had 17, lost 2, drawn 1. His first loss was against Frank Buglioni, which he took, I think it was like 10 days or 8 days. No, it was less than a week, because remember he fought on the Saturday. and then he fought the following Saturday. So it was less than a week.
Yeah, I see it right here. So he got a third round stoppage. Then within that 7-day period, he must have been approached, but he fought a good fight against Buglioni.
You got to remember as well, though, he fought that first fight at super middleweight. That Buglioni fight was his first fight at light heavy.
Yeah. So he was really thrown in the deep end.
And he took him 12 rounds against a very, Buglioni. Maybe that wasn't him in his prime, but he's a very tough fighter.
Yeah.
He will steamroll you if you let him.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that, I remember thinking at the time, it was on the card that I'm sure it was on the card where Dylan White fought Hellenius.
Yeah, Cardiff.
Yeah. But I remember thinking at the time, like, he's stepping up from super middleweight a week's notice against Frank Buglioni
in 12 rounds.
I don't know if you remember about Craig, and he's come on like probably one of the most improved fighters in the Matchroom stable. At super middleweight, he didn't look strong at all.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
And so I just remember thinking, you know what, Buglioni is gonna this is just a disaster. Like, for someone of his caliber as well at the time, wasn't a big name. It's like, it's gonna be one of them fights where, what do you do to recover? That's what I was thinking at the time. And then he went in there, took him 12 rounds, fought a good fight.
Yeah.
And since then, since the step up to light heavyweight, he's looked.
And he's been knocking people out, which is because that super middle, I think he was struggling to. And he did say, maybe a bit too drained. And he is a big boy. I mean, he's 6'3".
I was looking at it before we came. In his 6 wins that he's had at light heavyweight, he's got 5 knockouts.
Yeah. And he's had some 50-50 fights.
Yeah, man.
So let's look at that. So since he lost to Frank Buglioni, and I'm just saying this in comparison to Buatsi, and that's why I'm reading these out. So he had Jake Bull, which he was the underdog, and he stopped him in 3 rounds.
Completely demolished him.
Then he fought Andre Sterling, which was a wide points decision. I think he dropped him twice, definitely once. Then he fought that Chad, and he drew with Chad. Yeah. And that was kind of like a weird... Yeah, like it kind of slowed him down a bit. If he had won that and convincingly, his career could have continued to grow, but I feel like that slowed him down. But then again, he fought Pitters in a 12-rounder for the British title.
Again, that was for me, that was very much a 50-50
Yeah,
fight.
I mean, he was 14-0 at the time, Pitters. And he knocked him out in the 9th round on an away show.
And that's a big light heavyweight.
On an away show.
Yeah.
And then obviously straight into Bivol, which he lost on points. And it wasn't that wide. 114, 115, 113, 115. And he could have won the fight if he just...
You got to remember as well, that fight was in COVID. So
yeah.
There's no fans.
Yeah, sorry.
Bivol would have been able to keep his professional head in the ring, whereas Craig probably needed that little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
But I remember in that fight, Bivol didn't let him put his hands together, and Craig's very dangerous when he throws 2s and 3s.
But I feel like there was a tiny bit, and he won't have this against Buatsi, but look, let's have it right. Bivol was in the pound for pound talks like a year before that fight in 2020. He really was. He was up there with Canelo. And then he looked at, and he was 17-0, but he just didn't look as great in some of his last performances. So maybe Craig was not gun shy, but a little bit like in awe of who he's in there with. And I'm not saying it's acceptable, but you respect. He was respectful of who he was in there with.
There was small bursts in that fight where he threw the 1-2 and landed and the right hand caught him clean.
Yeah.
But he just didn't do it enough.
Yeah.
Didn't do it enough.
And it could have been maybe what Bivol was doing, or it could have been what Craig wasn't doing. But again, massive experience. And again, just to go through the list of opponents: Jake Bull, Frank Buglioni, Andre Sterling, Chad, Pitters, Bivol. Like, if we compare this to Buatsi, you understand where I'm going? I think it makes it, and Buatsi, I think he's been quite inactive. He broke his hand or something.
Yeah,
he definitely got pulled. He definitely got pulled off a card that he was meant to be on. Was it the Chisora card when he fought Parker?
I can't remember.
Maybe I could be wrong with that, but he definitely got pulled off a card for a broken hand. So he's been slightly inactive. Craig's been very active and had tougher professional opponents. Initially, I guess I was leaning towards Buatsi, and I think the majority of people are still leaning towards Buatsi, to be honest.
It's who people want to win, isn't it?
Yeah. But now I'm like, with the activity levels and the levels in opposition and the style that Craig brings, which is what I kind of want to get into now. It's like that Kalik who was keeping it long with Buatsi. Craig is like probably the best light heavyweight domestically that can do that. He's taller than me and I'm a cruiserweight. He's longer than me. He's got long arms. He's got a very good jab. That's why they call him the Spider. I feel like if Buatsi can't shut him down and put it on him and get really close and make it ugly from round, not make it ugly, but make it a mid to close range fight,
he'll lose the fight.
Yeah, he'll definitely like be down on rounds, you know, and Craig can definitely touch him. And I know we're saying that Craig has got a lot stronger since moving up in terms of his punching power, but physically, I feel like Buatsi is a lot rougher and tougher than he is. So I'm not really sure how the fight goes, but I think like that's what Buatsi needs to do. He needs to kind of rough up Craig a little bit, assert his physical dominance, kind of like we say with AJ and Usyk, similar. And I think Craig has to box him and not look for the knockout necessarily. I'm not necessarily sure he can knock out Buatsi. Buatsi seems to be quite durable. What's your thoughts?
I think I kind of look at it this way, and you might be able to hear this being a fighter yourself, but where Craig's coming from, the day he turned pro, he would have looked at the likes of Buatsi and thought, that's who I need to beat. That's who I need to be better than in this division. Buatsi probably hasn't been thinking much about Craig before the last sort of year to 2 years.
Yeah.
You know? Especially now they're fighting, obviously. But I just think Craig's going to have what it takes to beat him in there. He's going to know how to beat him.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be more pressure on Buatsi coming into it. He hasn't really fought at this level yet. And we're talking, I'm happy to class Craig as a world level fighter. He's been in there with Bivol. He went 12 rounds with Bivol, who, like you said, was not that long ago pound for pound on the pound for pound list if he's not still there. So I think there's going to be a lot more pressure on Craig. On Buatsi. And I think Craig takes him 12 rounds and beats him over 12 rounds.
Yeah, and this is another thing. Like, I know Buglioni isn't necessarily a Buatsi, but Craig has shown that he is also durable. No one has really come close to hurting him or even getting to him like that. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, I feel like if Buatsi doesn't stop him, is he really going to like win enough rounds?
Yeah.
But when I saw the press conference, Buatsi was he wasn't seeing it like was a step over, but he was like, once I get past this guy, it was kind of like, that was his energy. Then we can move on to world titles. And it might be a blessing for him that he's been slowed down, because he seems like he's carrying a bit of frustration. Like he just wants to get moving with his career. Yeah. Like he feels like maybe he shouldn't necessarily even be in this fight at this time. Does that make sense?
But then, see, my thing, Craig ain't a prospect anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's been through the levels now.
Yeah, he has.
He fought Shakan Peters, who arguably at the time was one of the top light heavyweights in the country.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he's gone on and fought Bivol. And he's kind of done it all, you know, because he took the last minute fight against Buglioni, so he knows about the pressure and going in there, and do you know what I mean? Like,
my point is, what I'm saying, bro, is that like he probably would have wanted to had Buatsi like when Lawrence had Isaac, or when Isaac had Lawrence earlier. You understand? But Craig's been built, like you said, Craig's been building at the same time. You know,
I honestly think at this point in time, Craig is above him. I know he's. Take away the amateur.
No, I feel you. I'm not even against that. Yeah, I'm not against that at all.
Look, it's a good fight for Craig because it brings eyes to it in Buatsi. If Craig's got his own fan base, obviously, but
yes, of course,
Buatsi's gonna, the zone are gonna promote the F out of it, basically.
Is Craig? He's with the zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I kind of feel like. Yeah, I kind of don't see Buatsi winning, you know.
Yeah, like that. I do
not
think
on a thing of Craig's gonna go in there and like it's gonna be a close fight, but I don't think Buatsi's gonna have enough to get to him, like you said. And Craig's a strong, very astute.
Yeah. That's what boxer. He is. Yeah, he's a very sharp.
And
boxer.
if there's anyone you don't want him in, Buatsi in with,
someone like
Craig.
that. Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, because styles make fights.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
interesting one still. I mean,
put all that aside, I'll rate them for taking it because neither one of them have to. Craig,
you say that, but I think Buatsi is in a place where he has to, and that's what I'm saying. The frustration.
Buatsi's in a place where if the fight's offered to him, he has to take it. But he don't have to. He didn't necessarily have to go looking for Craig. I don't know how the fight came about.
Yeah.
But it's the ideal fight for Buatsi if he wins it. To kind of announce himself in the British
or re-announce it. Yeah.
But like I said, I've said before, look, the state of the light heavyweight division worldwide, with the likes of Canelo bouncing around, Bivol, Beterbiev, these British boys might not even win a world title. So it's kind of like they might as well fight now,
each other,
and make good domestic fights, while they can, rather than waiting for.
And I think even financially, it might make more sense to do that.
Yeah,
do you know
100.
what I mean? For them,
but rather than waiting for a belt that potentially won't come. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, man, it's good. It's good for the sport.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And Craig's been doing this. Look, he's fought.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. Although Buatsi's been to the Olympics, and even when you're at the Europeans, which is the qualifiers for the Olympics, every fight is hard. Every fight is 50-50 or if that, So I'm sure he's used to it. But as a professional, Craig has done this more times. So Craig is actually more experienced. He's had more fights. He's had more tougher fights. He's been the underdog. I don't think Buatsi's been in a fight where anyone was saying that you might lose. He was in fights and people say, oh, this is going to be tough for you with Kalik and Bolotniks. But like, no one really, he's always been expected to win. But he don't look phased, if I'm honest, from what I see. But that's just all.
And I mean, as an amateur as well, he fought people like
he fought great guys.
So like, he's fought like.
But look what happened with Lacruz, and Craig isn't Lacruz in the sense of his elusiveness isn't the same. But like you say, it's a slippery boxer. My thing at the moment, I think Craig has probably the best jab.
Yeah.
Well, he has a better jab than Buatsi. I think it's a different kind of jab, but he puts hands on you. He puts his hands together well. So, and just with that eye that swelled up and seeing how easy it was for someone who's a little bit longer than Buatsi and a boxer to move on his toes and to flick them straight punches out, that could give him issues. But okay, definitely a good fight. They're headlining. We ain't got a clue who's on the undercard, but that's at the O2, May 21st. Good to see both guys. Guys who we know, kind of thing. Headlining at the O2 is a good thing. Both been British champion. Eddie was saying this fight acts as a world title eliminator, like for the winner. Where do you see the loser going? Regardless of how they lose.
There's other domestic fights out there. Lyndon Arthur's going to be looking to sort of get a bit of credibility back. Yeah. After what happened against Yard.
Yeah, he's not going to jump straight into something though, is he?
And then Dan Azeez, who we both know will probably fight any one of them.
Yeah, he was saying he would take the winner or the loser. I don't see the winner fighting Dan Azeez if it's acting as a world title eliminator. If Buatsi beats Craig, he will try and go on to push for a world title. Is it Joe Smith?
Yeah, Joe Smith Jr.
He's got one. And if Craig wins, he's definitely going to... Because Craig, I think, is set in his mind, like when I talk to him or listen to his interviews, it's like, he almost feels like he shouldn't be doing this anymore. Like he feels like he's had these 50-50 fights. Obviously, it's good money and it's good to prove that you're number one domestically. But if anyone deserves it, like, makes sense, it should be Craig. Like he's had the 50-50 fight. So, but yeah, I would like to see Dan Azeez get the loser. Regardless of how they lose. But Dan Azeez was asking for Yard. How do you see Dan Azeez and Yard going?
Boy. The best Dan Azeez against the best Yard.
Yeah. I mean, Yard looked really, really good against Arthur. Different style.
I mean, it might play into Yard's hands with Dan Azeez coming for him.
The way he does.
But then, I mean, Dan Azeez is he's a tough fighter.
Yeah. I just think that he can't be... And look, this is why people say you're only as good as your last fight. Because if when he fought Jose Burton, we'd be saying something else.
Yeah.
But now we're thinking, I just don't think he can come as one-dimensionally offensively as he did with that Reese on the weekend. He'd have to have a little bit more in his offense. Defensively, he's got great covers. He does ride shots, but Yard can catch him. Man. Yeah, Yard is heavy-handed. Yeah. Okay, so anything else? We're good for time, you know.
Yeah, man. I'm just happy to see these guys finally sort of getting in the ring with each other. I mean, like Craig did it a while ago with Shaka and Pitters and the other British guys that he's boxed. But it's like my stance is always like we're not even establishing who's the best in the country.
Yes.
And then we're talking about world titles. And obviously, as a fighter, even if I was a fighter, if someone's mentioning a world title, you wanna be in them conversations. Like you're not gonna say, "Oh no, let me do the domestic fights first." But from a fan's perspective, it's like I want to know who the best out of them four guys. You got Yard, Azeez, Buatsi, Craig. They're probably the top four right now. Linda and Arthur closely behind. I want to know who the best out of them is.
Yeah.
Before I see any of them fighting for world title. And like I said, the state of the light heavyweight division, these lot might not even win a world title. Yeah. Because there's some very good fighters at the top end. Yeah,
and that's where I agree with you. Like, they might not win it now, but they can use each other in a weird way to build.
Yeah, man.
Like, even like with Dion and Richard. Richard might fight for a world title soon, but it might be more in his favor that he fights Dion, has a training camp for another southpaw, or that he fights Isaac. You understand? And it's like what it does is it builds your popularity in your fan base locally, because it gives us stuff to talk about in the barbershops, on the podcast, on the internet. Because some of these other guys, they may be good, but where we don't know them, unless you're a true boxing fan, it's hard to follow along. But when you have domestic fights,
imagine what happens really good. If Dan Azeez was in this fight with Buatsi and Dan Azeez beat him.
Yeah.
Then that's the whole of Buatsi's kind of following.
Shaking it. Yeah.
Seeing that.
Goes over.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I know it's not that simple, but like that's how you kind of get your fans on side, you know?
It's good though, because I feel like a couple months ago, we, not just me and you, but like we were saying we need to see more domestic ones. We need to see more 50-50s. And across the weight classes, I think there has been a few of recent. I was happy to see Dion and Richard. Even prior to that, I was happy.
It wasn't for a belt either.
Yeah, it wasn't for a belt. Even prior to that, I was happy to see Lowell and Dion in the cruiserweight division. It's
I think it's important, man.
It's good to have Yard and Arthur as well. Yeah. It's what we've been complaining about. So now we're finally getting it.
Yeah, and I think that culture, whoever they think started, a lot of people say it's down to Floyd, but the whole thing of not wanting to lose
your
O. It's like, my thing is like, you're either good enough or you're not. You know, and if you're gonna say you're good enough, then put your O on the line. And if you lose, and you feel like it was close or you shouldn't have lost, rematch.
But this is what I mean.
This is how boxing
should be.
This is how the sport is built. You know, like it shouldn't be, oh, we'll fight again when it's a bigger money fight. I get that logic, but you can still fight now. Yeah, and then it's a bigger money.
And fight. I don't think these losses are that bad. If you fight to someone domestic, like if Craig loses to Buatsi or Buatsi loses, I don't think it's that bad.
If you lose someone who's good enough to beat you,
it's not.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you get
if it's a genuine
journeyman, that's different.
If it's a genuine 50-50, then it's cool. So yeah, I think that's us.
Yeah, man.
I haven't even spoke to you about this, but next episode, guys, episode 10, we're gonna have Denzel Bentley, who's fighting for the British title against Linus. How do you say his last name?
Linus Adofie.
And you got a little bit of a story of Linus Adofie. So we're gonna have that for you guys next week. That's gonna be on Wasserman Channel 5, May 13th at the O2. Denzel Bentley. Well, yeah, we're gonna get into it when he comes, but he's fought for the British already. So God willing, he wins this. This will be 2-time British champion. Linus hasn't. Linus has fought for the English, and this is going to be his first shot at the British. But we'll get man. Yeah, well, it's a proper 50-50, isn't it? But we'll get into that next week. So yeah, till then, take care.